Michael Harris has become a huge problem for the Atlanta Braves, and it's one that doesn't really have a good answer. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Thursday, September 18th, your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. I want to talk a little bit about Hurston Waldrep. 5 innings against the Nationals yesterday. Kind of got a little bit of trouble in the 5th inning. I want to tell you why that happened and maybe a larger explanation for some of the issues we've seen with him recently. But first, we've got to talk about Michael Harris. Money Mike had a month where he was the best hitter in baseball. It was a little, calendar-wise, it was a little more than a month, right? 33 games, but it started right before the All-Star break. So it's like 43 days or whatever, month and a half, really. But just over a month of actual games. And he hit .396 with a .409 on base and a .716 slug in that month and change. 9 homers, 23 RBIs, stole 2 bags. Ran through the end of the Cleveland road trip on August 17th. The issue, though, is before that, he was pretty bad. 90 games, 205 average, 229 on base, 310 slug, 6 homers, 43 RBI, 12 stolen bases. He was stealing some bags, and he was driving guys in, an RBI every other game, roughly. He had a couple games where he didn't start in there, but he checked in late, so it comes out to about 1 every other game, right? The RBIs have been there all year. After the end of that Cleveland series, in Cleveland against the Guardians, 28 games going into last night. 196 batting average, 207 on base, 299 slug. 3 homers in 28 games, 15 RBI, 2 stolen bases. And we talked on here. I wrote it up on the newsletter. It was everywhere about the mechanical changes that Michael Harris made, right? Right before the All-Star break. He raised his hands back up to where they were when he was a prospect and when he first debuted before Kevin Seitzer lowered his hands and all of that stuff. It's a timing thing. It's a load thing. And it worked for him, right? The issue is, I think it's twofold. The small issue here is he's kind of overcorrected a little bit. Instead of his hands being down in front of his chest and bringing them up to like his chin, if you watch recently, he's all the way up like by his face. He's just overcorrected on the hand raise. So you just need to bring him back down to the normal place to have your hands. You don't need to have them way up by your eyeballs. That's not a thing he's normally done. He's just continuously drifted up since he made the mechanical change. Just bring them back to kind of chin height where they were versus being a little bit lower where they were like, you know, chest high or even bottom of the sternum, kind of top of the stomach, diaphragm height, whatever. That's not the big issue, okay? The big issue, and it's one that he has not fixed this year, and he really has always had this since he debuted, is he has the worst swing decisions outside of Javier Baez in all of baseball. And I make the joke about Javi Baez because Javi Baez is like the poster child of swing at just absolute crap. Javi Baez's chase rate this season is 45.9%. And again, he's the poster child for just embarrassing swinging at junk. Michael Harris's chase rate, 43.1%. They're both first percentile in baseball. Because of that, Michael does not walk. First percentile walk rate, 2.3%. There's a very good chance that there are a handful of people in the YouTube premiere right now or listening in their car on lunch while they're driving to pick up lunch to the audio right now who could walk 2% of the time in Major League Baseball. depending if you get the right pitcher out there, you could just walk up and not even take a bat with you and probably walk 2% of the time if you had the right pitcher in front of you. And the biggest microcosm of this problem was in last night's game. And if you watch the postcast, we went through this there. But in essence, in the 6th inning for the Braves go into the inning down, they were down 3-0. The Nationals had just hopped on Hurston Waldrep for 3 runs. So Waldrep is the pitcher of record still for the top of the 6th, but he ended up not coming out for the bottom of the 6th. So he got the win because Atlanta scored 4 runs here. But they scored them without Michael Harris. So Brad Lord still in the game. And to open the inning, he gets a fly out of Matt Olson. Credit to him because it's virtually impossible to get Matt Olson out right now, it feels like. Dude's stats are absolutely absurd. Like, month of September for Matt Olson, he's hitting .383 in the month of September. A .481 on base and an .851 slug. It's stupid crazy. Anyway, not what we're here for. So Matt Olson flies out. Ronald Acuna Jr. singles. Drake Baldwin hits a double. That brings in Acuna. Atlanta's now on the board. So you got Baldwin on second. They go from Brad Lord to Clayton Beeter, who is having a bit of a rough season. His ERA right now is .470. You know, he's struggling. He's 26 years old, but this is like his first real experience. He got 3 2/3 innings with the Yankees last year. And now he's at like 23 innings this year. He was the return of the Ahmed Rosario deal at the deadline last year. He comes in, he walks Ozzie Albies on 4 straight pitches. If you walk Ozzie Albies, you're having a rough day. Like, we know that. That's fine. Okay, he walks Ozzie Albies. Ha-Sung Kim comes up, works a really good at-bat. He gets up 3-0. He takes 3 pitches, a really close fastball. He takes it for ball 1. He reads ball 2 in the dirt. He holds off on an inside fastball like thigh high. The kind of pitch that some dudes will try to turn on, and they probably struggle with it and just like chop it into the ground. He takes it. He's up 3-0. He gets 2 called strikes on inside fastballs. One is off the zone. One is in the zone. He fouls off a fastball, just misses 96. Again, like belt high, outer third. Just a bad miss by Kim. And then he takes the fastball low for the walk. Okay? So 11 pitches from Clayton Beeter. 7 of them have been balls. I can't do math. 8 of them have been balls. 11 pitches, 8 have been balls. And 2 of the 4 to Kim and 3 of the 4 to Ozzie not only were balls, they were nowhere close. He's thrown like, I think it's 3 balls in the dirt already in this game. 2 or 3. So Harris comes up. The very first pitch is a slider in the dirt. Harris swings. It bounces in front of the plate. It's not like it's a slider in the dirt, like it's right there at Baldwin's feet. It bounces in front of the plate and Harris swings. Pitch 2, this is actually a good pitch. This is a slider down and away, just right on the black, right above the corner of the zone. Good pitch. Michael Harris swings and misses. Pitch 3 is a slider in the dirt that bounces closer to the pitcher's mound than the other one that he swung at. And he swings at this one too. I wanted to show the clip here for those of you on YouTube. If I put the clip in, the algorithms are going to catch it. They're going to make me pull it down. So it's on social media, at Crosby Baseball. You can find me from yesterday's game. It's there. It's also in the game story, so bravestoday.com. Those game stories are called Today's 3 Things. There's a whole section for them on there. It's in there as well. The nicest way, this is me being nice, the nicest way that I can say, or that I can describe that at-bat, is that was the worst at-bat I have seen from any professional hitter in Major League Baseball in 2025. The dude just threw 8 balls and 11 pitches. You swing at all 3 of the pitches you see. 2 of them are in the dirt in front of the plate. But you apparently decided you were going to swing before the ball even left his hand. And even when Harris was hot, when he had that hot month that I mentioned, he was doing it despite these swing decisions. He's never gotten better at this. And in some respects, he's gotten worse at this. His swing decisions, believe it or not, have actually gotten slightly worse since he debuted. He had a 39% chase rate in 2022. 38.1% in 2023. It, believe it or not, went down. 24, 39.6. It went up. This year, 43.1%. It not only went up, it jumped 4%. Now, he has had a little bit of bad luck. Okay. His actual batting average is 242. The expected is 273. And this pretty much the same profile with a little bit less chase was able to hit 297 in his first year and 293 in his second year. But all of his stats, every component of the slash, has come down year over year. Average, 297 to 293 to 264 to 242. On base, 339 to 331 to 304 to 261. Slugging, 514 to 477 to 418 to 391. Everything has come down now for 4 consecutive seasons. The only thing really in this profile that has not gotten worse every single year is his homer and stolen base totals. Because his homers went 19, 18, 16 last year, 17 this year. But the difference is he hit those 16 last year in 110 games. He's hit these 17 in 151. He has 14 walks on the year. He got to double digits. Holy cow, he got the double digits. But he's going to finish with less than 20. And we talked yesterday about shortstop, and we talked about how if Ha-Seong Kim opts out or doesn't pick up the player option is technically the language there. You've got to figure out shortstop, and there's no good options. Like I talked about it yesterday, I really don't think the Angels are going to trade Zach Neto, right? You're really just banking on Art Moreno being a bad owner and pushing that through. Same thing with the Rockies and Ezekiel Tovar. You're just counting on Dick Monfort being a bad owner and doing that, right? There's no actual reason for the Angels to trade Neto. He should be rather affordable. He's got 4 years of arbitration, I think, and it'll be pretty affordable. Tovar has $50 million owed in the next 4 or 5 years, but it's spread over 4 or 5 years, and so there's no real reason to do it. Center field, trying to figure out a replacement for Michael Harris. Because if you don't have Ha-Seong Kim, let's say you have to go with Nick Allen, you can't have 2 black holes in your offense. And just like the struggles with replacing your shortstop in free agency, you're going to also have struggles to replace your center fielder. Let's talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Thank y'all for being here, by the way. I know I've mentioned it before, but everybody, not just me, right? Everybody. Views have dropped off, clicks have dropped off, all of that stuff because people are checking out of the Atlanta Braves, and I get that. But those of you who are here every day, you're in the YouTube chat, you have, the subscriptions to bravestoday.com, especially the paid subscribers. We had like a 20-something comment article yesterday. Like just a ton of comments and great conversation in the comment section of the article back and forth, the paid subscribers. Love that kind of stuff. You guys are still engaged and checked in, and I love it. It's great. We're going to keep this going all off season. We're not quitting just because the team did. But in a similar vein to the shortstop issue yesterday, if you try to replace Michael Harris, and you're not going to cut him, I'm more so talking about finding a player to add to your lineup that can play center field if you needed to on a semi-regular basis. So ideally somebody who is a center fielder. Okay. There's not a ton of really good options, right? There are guys out there who are going to be available, but everybody is flawed and they're going to cost money. Okay. So number one, the guy that comes up a lot is Cedric Mullins. Formerly of the Orioles, was traded to the New York Mets at the trade deadline. He's 30. He'll be 31 on October 1st, and he'll be an unrestricted free agent. There's no qualifying offer attached. You can't give him one. He changed teams mid-year. He'll be a free agent. And a lot of people have said, hey, you can go get Cedric Mullins. Again, all three of these players I'm going to name are flawed in one way or another. The issue with Cedric Mullins is he's had one good year in the last four. In 2022, in 2021, which I do feel better that it wasn't a juice ball year of 23. In 2021, that was the year that he just decided to stop switch hitting, right? He just bats left-handed now. In 2021, he hit .291 with a .360 on base and a .518 slug. He hit 30 bombs. He stole 30 bags. He was an all-star. He was a silver slugger in the American League. He was a 9th place finisher for MVP. 59 RBI, 91 runs scored. He was leading off a lot for the Orioles, playing good defense, and just being an absolute menace at the plate. 2022, not as good, but still a pretty decent year. .258 batting average. So he dropped like 33 points or whatever. .318 on base, .403 slug. That was the big drop. He went from 30 home runs to 16, right? Stole 34 bags, caught 10 times. 89 runs scored. Still scored plenty of runs. They just weren't on homers. And then after that, he's not completely cratered, but he's been pretty poor. Okay. So from 23 to 25, those 3 years combined, going into Wednesday's games, and he was traded to the Mets at the trade deadline, and they've not been happy with him. He's batting under 200 there. Cedric Mullins, those 3 seasons, has hit .229 with a .304 on base and a .407 slug. So the last 3 years, he's had an OPS plus of exactly 100, which is fine. It's not terrible. He has a total of 50 homers, so it's a per season average of 16 and a half, right? He's stolen 72 bags, so it's like 24 stolen bags a season. So 16, 17 homers, 24 stolen bases, batting average of roughly .230 or so, okay? It's league average production, okay? He's probably the best option in free agency as far as provided that the 2025 slump, and he's hit, the batting average was .229, but he hit, like he was kind of himself with Baltimore. He was hurt for a while, 91 games, but he was kind of himself with Baltimore. With the Mets, and I get it, it's the Mets, you don't want to be there. 190 average, 597 OPS, 2 homers in 35 games, struck out 30 times. But so again, one great year, one good year in the last 5. And he would be signing at the age of 31. Okay. Harrison Bader, formerly of, he's been all over really. Started off with St. Louis, was traded to the Yankees, then spent some time with Cincinnati, spent 2024 with the Mets, signed with Minnesota, and then was traded to Philly. He's another guy, one good year in the last couple. 23 and 24 combined. And this was playing for New York, times 2. It was the Yankees in 23, and it was the Mets in 24, and a little bit of Cincinnati last year. He hit .234 with a .279 on base and a .362 slug. So, again, not great, not awful. The OPS plus is a lot worse. than Mullins, like a 78 OPS plus. 19 homers across those 2 seasons, and that's with the advantage of spending some time in Cincinnati in that short porch, or just sorry, not short porch, in just that tiny Little League ballpark, right? He did not get the short porch advantage with the Yankees because he's a righty. The short porch is for lefties. So 78 OPS plus. Now this year is his hot year, okay? With Minnesota, 96 games, 258 average, 778 OPS, 12 homers, 10 stolen bases. Since getting traded to the Phillies, he's been a man absolutely freaking possessed. Entering Wednesday's action, 40 games, 333 batting average, 899 OPS. Best mark of his career by over 100 points. 4 homers and 40 games with Philly. Only stolen 1 bag. It's not been a big part of his game with Philly. He's stealing bases. But he's been very good for them. He's also already 31. This is his age 31 season. He turned 31 in June. So you'd be signing him for his age 32 season. He has a mutual option for 26. There's no way that gets picked up. Just mutual options never get picked up. It's a terrible idea. Either the player thinks they're worth more, or the team doesn't think you're worth the option amount. There's no incentive for both sides to pick up the mutual option. It's just dumb. The third option, Luis Robert of the Chicago White Sox. He's technically not going to be a free agent unless they choose to pay his buyout to get rid of him. He has 2 $20 million club options for 26 and 27. They have to pay a $2 million buyout to not pick up his option for 26. So maybe you have the ability to trade for him if you're convinced you can get the old version of Luis Robert. You pay him $20 million and you've got that version. If not, if they pay his buyout, he goes into the market and you have to try to compete to get him. Again, a guy who has one very good season. He actually, he had a 2020, he was runner-up for Rookie of the Year and won a Gold Glove. Batted .233. 2020, it was 56 games. But in 2023, 145 games, he was worth over 5 WAR. Hit .264 with an .857 OPS, 38 homers, 20 stolen bases, was an all-star, was a silver slugger for the American League, MVP finisher, 12th place. Got MVP votes, okay? Since then, so 24 and 25, again, entering Wednesday's games, he's hit .223 with a .660 OPS. It's an 85 OPS plus. He's hit a total of 28 homers, so 14 per season. He's stolen 56 bags, so 28 a season. He's been worth 1.4 WAR. That's really probably not something you want to pay $20 million for, plus whatever prospects it takes to get Luis Robert from the White Sox. Now, before anybody asks, because it's going to come up, it always comes up, there's a 0% chance of getting Colson Montgomery in that deal as well. Shortstop Colson Montgomery. They have some shortstop prospects in that system. None of them are in the upper minors. Billy Carlson, 19 years old, rookie ball. Caleb Bonnemer, 19 years old, high A. Kyle Lodis, the older brother of our drafted Alex Lodis, high A, 21 years old. William Bergola, he's at double A. So he could theoretically debut next year. But if I remember right, he just got to double A. You're not going to get Colson Montgomery out of them without giving them something stupidly valuable like Ronald Acuna Jr. So don't worry about it. Just don't expect it. But you can see, all of these guys are flawed. It's a similar situation to shortstop, except some of these guys actually do have a track record of being good. They all have one season where they've been really good offensively. Harrison Bader's is this year. Cedric Mullins was 21. Robert's was 23. But they're probably all also going to be expensive, and they're already on the other side of 30. If this is a situation where you think that, one, you can get these guys back to that career best performance, and you think you're going to be able to fix Michael Harris, and you don't need them to be a long-term center field option, then yeah, maybe getting one of those guys on a deal makes sense. Who can play some left, can play some right, you can rotate all these guys through the DH role, and if Michael Harris stumbles and needs to go down for 2 weeks to Gwinnett, you can throw this dude in center field for 2 weeks and be okay with it. If that's the case, and you think you can fix the guy, give me Luis Robert. The only option that really would work here is trading for Byron Buxton. And a lot of people have suggested that. The backstory here, he is from the Atlanta area. Okay, he went to Appling County High School in Baxley. He still lives in Georgia in the offseason. But he signed a long-term deal in Minnesota. And multiple times this season, like he has a full no-trade clause. He can block any deal. And multiple times this season, he has said he does not want to leave Minnesota. He talked about it, I believe, in spring training. He talked about it at the All-Star game, and he talked about it right there at the trade deadline. Now, it's possible that given how aggressive Minnesota was at just completely tearing it down at the trade deadline, it's possible that maybe he decides this offseason, okay, I am actually okay with the idea of leaving now. And if that's the case, you have to think Atlanta would be one of the most attractive destinations. He's an incredibly talented player who's been very injured in his career. This year is the third time in his career, and he's 31 years old. This is his 11th year in the game. This is the third time in his career he's played more than 100 games. He got 140 games in 2017. He was a Gold Glove and an MVP finalist. He got 102 games last year. And he has 116 games this year. 3-time All-Star. He's hitting .271 with an .887 OPS. He's got 31 homers, 24 stolen bases. It is arguably the best season of his career. If he is, in fact, okay with now leaving Minnesota, where his kids go to school, like he's raising a family there, he's talked about liking the city, wanting to stay. If he is okay with leaving, Atlanta has to be the most logical destination just based on both availability of playtime, ability to take off some of the workload by letting him DH and have days off because you have Ronald, you have Profar, you have Harris, and the family connections. You would be paying him, if you take the deal, you would be paying him $15 million in each of 26, 27, and 28. And he has up to $11 million in performance and award bonuses. But again, really unlikely that they trade Byron Buxton because, again, he has multiple times he has said he does not want to leave and that he would block any trade. It's worth a phone call. Alex Anthopoulos, everything we've heard, he calls just about everybody on everybody. He does his due diligence. He'll probably call the Minnesota Twins this offseason and inquire about would they be open to Buxton, and does he have permission to talk to Buxton about it, or would they find out if Buxton is interested in possibly waiving his no-trade clause to come to Atlanta? The way that MLB rules work, by the way, I don't believe Atlanta is allowed to just call Buxton directly. I do think that Alex Anthopoulos can talk to Buxton's agents. He's a Wasserman client. I do think that Anthopoulos can call his agent, but since he's under contract with another team, the way that usually works is AA discusses it with the team before he talks to Buxton's agent. And he would not call Buxton directly unless everybody was on board and they were at that point in the whole conversation. So it would be like hey, has Buxton said he would consider waiving the no-trade clause to go certain places? If you know, great. And if you don't, is it okay if we reach out to the agent and ask? That's the logistics of how that works. Again, I don't expect him to leave because he said multiple times he doesn't want to. It's worth a call. All right. In just a second, let's talk about Hurston Waldrep's start yesterday. I noticed some stuff. There's a little bit of things floating around about what people think he got wrong, and I think they're a little off base with this. We'll break all of that down next, right here on Braves Today. Final segment of Braves today, Lindsay Crosby. Let's talk about the Hurston Waldrep start yesterday, because it's another start. It wasn't bad. Like, let's clarify here. None of these starts recently have been bad for Hurston Waldrep. It's not like he's getting blasted. Okay, correction. The Houston start was bad. 8 runs and 4 2/3. I forgot how bad that one was. Outside of that, none of these have been bad. He gives up 3 runs on 5 hits across 5 innings to Washington. He does get the win, though, because like we mentioned earlier, Atlanta took the lead in the top of the 6th. He was still the pitcher of record. The issue that he had in that 5th inning, he gave up 4 hits. So 4 of his 5 hits came in that 5th inning. Is his locations really not only kind of got out of control, but all drifted up in the zone. Okay, Luis Garcia got a double, and it was a splitter up. And when I say splitter up, it was the very top of the zone. You throw 4-seam fastballs up there. You throw cutters up there. You don't throw splitters at the very top of the zone. Like, it was on the black up. There's obviously not actual black. That's the euphemism. It's, on the edge of the plate, side to side, we call it on the black, so I'm using that up top too. You don't throw splitters up there. Double off of that. Dylan Cruz gets a single. Also, cutter up, very top of the zone, okay? You do throw fastballs up there, but still, it didn't look like that's where Drake Baldwin wanted the pitch to be, okay? Robert Hassel then gets an RBI double, and it's a splitter that's kind of at the belt and away. The best usage of the splitter is down below the zone. And part of the reason of getting all of these other fastballs and getting these things to be good was you needed fastballs that you could throw down in the zone, so that from an initial look by a batter, sight picture. That's what they call. That's what hitters call that. The initial sight picture you get as a hitter. You don't know if this is going to be a fastball down or a splitter below the zone. So throwing that thing at the belt is not where it's supposed to be. It drifted up. Not as far as the Garcia splitter, but it drifted up. James Wood hits an RBI double. Same thing. Splitter, belt high, away. Not where you want to leave a splitter. And then C.J. Abrams, the inning finally ends on a C.J. Abrams fly out to left field, I think. And it was a cutter that was up. It wasn't top of the zone, but it was like upper third of the zone. And all of his stuff just kind of drifted up. And I think some of this is stamina and workload kind of stuff here, okay? What we have to remember with Hurston Waldrep is how much he's been used versus how much he pitched in previous seasons. And on that note, by the way, Hurston Waldrep is now no longer PPI eligible, because it's either 45 days of service time or it's a certain number of innings. And this year, Hurston Waldrep has now thrown 50 1/3 innings. So Hurston Waldrep has thrown too many innings to be eligible for the prospect promotion incentive. He has not earned a full year of service time. I believe he's still within the range of being Rookie of the Year eligible next year, but not prospect promotion incentive eligible, meaning the Braves would not get a draft pick if he wins. So, important to remember that. But when you look at his usage, he, in college, was a workhorse, right? So 2023 at Florida, he spent 1 year at Florida, 2 years at Southern Mississippi, 1 year at Florida. He pitched 101 2/3 innings. And Florida that year went all the way to the College World Series and all the way to the championship. They lost to Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz and LSU. So that was 19 starts, 101 2/3 innings. And then, after he was drafted, Hurston Waldrep led all drafted pitchers that year in both innings and strikeouts. He threw 29 1/3 innings and had 41 strikeouts. So altogether, he threw 131 innings that draft year, which is really good production. Part of the reason Atlanta doesn't always move or doesn't always use some of these starters as relievers in the majors and things like that, is they want them to build the innings so that you can get somewhat of a normal season of innings out of these guys. 2024, he only threw 100 and a third because he was on the injured list. This was something when he finished that second start with the Braves. And I remember this whole thing very clearly. They announced they were sending him down. And then right after that, they in essence had to rescind the option and instead put him on the injured list because he had like elbow soreness or elbow tightness or something. He started on the 16th of June against the Rays. And that was 3 1/3, 6 runs on 5 hits, walked 4, gave up a couple bombs. Not a great outing, right? And they went to move him down to option him down that night. And the next day had to come back and say they rescinded the option instead of put him on the IL. And then he went to rookie ball to rehab, single A, and then back to triple A. So he only got 100 and a third innings that year. This year, combined between the minors and the majors, he's at 142. And the rule of thumb is year over year, you're trying to limit guys to about 30 or 40 more innings than what they did the previous season. Now, Atlanta doesn't necessarily believe in that. From what I've understood talking to different people and things like that, Atlanta tries to look for specific markers to indicate whether a guy is overly fatigued and losing their mechanics, at risk of greater injury, all that kind of stuff. And like we saw it a lot come up with Spencer Schwellenbach last year. And he specifically talked about doing different things to shorten his bullpens, things that like Chris Sale helped him with it, understanding how much work what was the minimum amount of work he needed to do to get through or to be ready for his next start. Because he's a situation where in 2023, he pitched 65 innings. And then in 2024, he started off in the minors, made 8 starts in the minors, and then made 21 more in the majors. So he went from, math in my head. He went from 65 innings to 168. He went over 100 innings over, and he didn't have any ill effects. It's different for every guy. It really feels like Hurston Waldrep is as good as he's been early in the game. And as he gets later and he starts to get fatigued, he loses the new mechanics a little bit. Things start to drift, things start to come up, and he's just it's like he's not starting at 100%. He's not starting the game at 100% stamina. Think of it like a video game. He's not at 100% stamina. He's at like 85% when he starts. So he runs out of gas a little bit later. And if you break down Hurston Waldrep by inning, you can kind of see some of this. It's all small sample size theater. Like, let's be clear here, okay? But you can see some of this stuff. His ERA by inning. First inning, 3.12. Little bit of issues there, okay? Second inning, ERA is 1. Third inning, ERA is 2. Fourth inning, ERA is 3. Fifth inning, ERA is 7.27. Significant difference there versus everywhere else. It's just one of those things where, and some of that is just like one bad start, right? But some of that is he runs out of gas a little bit later. And I think that's that's kind of natural, right? Like that's just a thing you're going to have for a young pitcher who's over his previous innings workload by, what did we say, 42 innings? He's like 40% above what he did last year. So I think he's going to be fine, right? I don't know what he'll do the last couple starts of the year. We have the rotation for this weekend in Detroit. If I'm trying to do the math here, he might just have one more start left. He might have 2. After this weekend, Atlanta has 6 games left to play. And he started today, so that would put him Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. He'd start Tuesday. He might not start again after that. He might start Tuesday and then not start again. in which case Atlanta could just option him down and grab a new arm, right? If you're not going to use him again, option, because after Tuesday, you have Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You have 4 games left. You would not need him again. So he's making one more start. It's not a big deal. I just think that's the explanation for what happened. I've seen people talking about he's using the curveball too much early. He's, all that kind of stuff. I don't think it's that. I think it's just the dude's tired. And that happens. But he has a good base of innings to build off of for next year. And I remember Snit talking about this in the end of 23 press conference, and again in the start of spring training. And it was in relation to Bryce Elder and how Bryce Elder struggled so much down the stretch in 23. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the exact quote here, but Snit said something about, you don't know how hard it is to do it until you do it. And that sounds obvious, but what he's saying is you can do all of the prep you want. You can do all the cardio you want, all the lifting you want, all the conditioning you want. You don't know how tough it's going to be to push your innings to a new high until you actually do it. And so Hurston Waldrep throwing 140, again, he's at 142 now. He probably finishes 148. The goal would be 148. If he's amazing in that start, maybe he gets to 150. It's against Washington again, who knows? But he's going to be 145 to 150 is where he's going to end the season. That's a good base to then try and get to 162 next year. Spencer Schwellenbach came into the season. He said his goal was to throw 200 innings. In retrospect, a little bit optimistic. He got hurt. But I think a reasonable goal for a pitcher can be 162 innings. That is enough to qualify for the ERA title. Heading into Wednesday's games, there are 14 pitchers in baseball who have already thrown 162 innings. There are 21 that are within 6 innings of that mark. So you could have 20 qualified pitchers at the end of the year. So 142 now for Waldrep makes me feel good. You'll get 150 or 160 out of him as long as he stays healthy, and you need it next year. This has been Braves Today for Wednesday, September 17th. Going to try to get a bonus episode up this afternoon. We'll see what happens. I got some stuff going around the house. We'll see if we can get that there for you guys like I promised earlier in the week. In the meantime, do me a favor. If you're listening on audio, 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts would be great. Send the show to a friend. Again, I know I mentioned it earlier in the show. For everybody in the Braves content creation sphere, views are down, clicks are down, all of that stuff is down because the team's been bad. And a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us are still working pretty hard to try to bring you everything we can about your team. So anything you can do would be super helpful. Until next time, this has been Braves Today.